I'm Nikki Jovicic from LookUpStrata and welcome to this edition of Strata Snapshot Series. I'm here with Peter Berney, National Business Development Manager for Solutions and Engineering. Thank you for joining me, Pete, and can you tell me a little bit about Solutions and Engineering?
Hi Nikki, nice to meet you. Solutions and Engineering started in 1984 in Glebe in Sydney, New South Wales, and Ralph Friston basically was doing underpinning work for units, and consequently when sinking funds came in, people turned to him to say, can you do sinking funds as well? That took off in Queensland, where he'd moved the head office to in 96, and then 2006 in New South Wales, and of course it spread around the country. Since that time, we've managed to secure work in New Zealand and Canada and the United Arab Emirates. We do sinking fund reports, safety, asbestos audits, insurance valuations, fire, bill compliance, and various other report types relevant to the assets of strata buildings.
I believe you've been conducting information sessions on child window safety regulations and that this topic is of special interest to you. Why is that?
One of the things I noticed, I travel a lot, Nikki, and here and abroad, and one thing I've always noticed was that wherever I travel, I used to say there's the three things like death and taxes and children fall out of windows in New South Wales. And people go, really? I go, yeah, more than anywhere. Children fall out of windows in New South Wales. And I tried to work out why this would be, and I figured it was probably because of the fact that many years ago we would have moved into a unit or a flat, met someone, fallen in love, had children, and then moved to the suburbs to raise a family. Whereas these days families tend to be raised in the city itself, in the apartments. So more beds are put in the apartments, and beds are put up against windows that aren't lockable. And unfortunately, children, being children, tend to want to play, and I think that's why it's generally happened in Sydney more so than anywhere else. So the legislation was changed under the Building Code of Australia, so that all windows in a residential building above 2 metres from ground have to be lockable to 125 mil, which is the sphere of a baby's head. So that's the national standard. So from 2013, moving forwards, all new buildings will have this in place. However, what New South Wales did is they went one step further on the Strata Management Act and brought it in for the state retrospectively. So all buildings with a residential lot in New South Wales must have their windows restricted to 125 mil opening if above 2 metres from ground floor, and if the window sill is 1.7 metres or less from the unit floor.
So why has the legislation been put in place?
To save lives. The Westmead Children's Hospital, there was a 10-year period there where they were averaging, they were seeing something like a child every 6 to 9 days was falling out of a window. And 60% of these children were under 5 or 4 years of age. To give you an idea of how this works, in New York they brought this legislation in. You may remember the Eric Clapton situation where his son Connor fell out of a New York apartment. So Connor was playing with the nanny or the maid and ran into a room that wasn't used that often in their apartment. The janitor had removed the window to do some maintenance to let some air in, and basically they were playing hide and seek, and kind of ran out the window of the 54th floor apartment on Central Park, and consequently died. After that, New York brought in window restrictive devices and had a 96% success rate in minimising falls from windows. So it clearly works. I suppose the difference between New York and Sydney, or New South Wales rather, is in the Northern Hemisphere they're about keeping buildings warm, whereas we're about keeping buildings cool. So it may have an effect on people that don't have air conditioning in the summer months. So the legislation allows for the device to be lockable. So if there's no children in the apartment, you can then open the window to let the breezes through. But as soon as there's children there, it must be locked.
So who's responsible, the owner or the owner's corporation?
The Act states that it's the owner's corporation responsibility. In New South Wales, the windows are part of the common property for maintenance purposes. So the owner's corporation should then go and seek quotes and get a professional company like Solutions and Engineering to do the work. I say this because the owners corporation are responsible. So if you've got owners saying, oh yes, I've done it, and you haven't got a system in place to check that yourself, then you're at liberty to believe that they've done it, A, they've done it, B, that they've done it correctly, and C, that they've checked it for the relevant pressure test as per the Act. And it's just that the machinery used to pressure test windows is worth more than fitting the devices yourself. So you're better off getting a company to come in and fit the same device across the entire building, key to like, so that you don't have to worry about a different key for each window in your apartment. And you have recourse to that company should something go wrong. You should also take into consideration your insurance. So the owners corporation's insurance, what effect does it have on their claims? So if you've got an owner that says they've done something and they haven't, and there's an incident, it will come back onto the insurance.
So as a lot owner, why should I comply? What are the consequences if I don't comply with this legislation?
As a lot owner, there's a fine on the owners corporation. That's not the big deal. Apart from the moral and ethical reasons why you should comply, saving lives. If you're purely looking things from a financial viewpoint, you have a duty of care, and duty of care in common law, states clearly that you have a duty of care to the safety of anybody entering or leaving your premises. So, and I had a call from a lady in Randwick about this one day who. Actually, she emailed me, and I could tell that she was struggling with the concept in the way she wrote the email. Her neighbour has kids. I don't have kids. I shouldn't have to do this. And I rang her up and I said, look, if your neighbour's children fall out the window, do you realise that your whole owners corporation will be caught up in the court case, not just your neighbour? It affects everybody. So you need to show that the building was compliant. Because unfortunately, one day down the track, this is going to happen. And the judge is going to start saying, what did you do, as far as reasonably practicable, to minimise risk? And you need to be able to show compliance. And that's why when we started coming up with our system, I was actually on a long-haul flight to Vancouver, so I had a lot of time to think about it. And we started at the end and said, you're in a court and this has happened. And I thought, well, I want photographic proof. I want proof that I can show the judge that the window was compliant before, and maybe a tenant moved in, maybe they removed it, they broke it, maybe it had been faulty at some stage, or for whatever reason, a child fell out of the window and it was a compliant window. So I need to show that it was compliant at time of inspection. And there's a time and date stamp on the photograph to show this. And then I go back again and think, okay, well the next biggest thing is logistics. How do we access these places? How do we take the monkey off the Strata manager's back? Okay, we set up an online booking system so that our owners can choose a 30-minute window. So they're not waiting around all day. You've been in those situations where you're waiting for someone to deliver a lounge or Energex, or a utility wants you there half a day for 5 minutes of your time. And it's like, well, that's not practicable. So all those systems have worked really well. We then thought, well, let's put our name behind this and we'll sign a certificate of compliance for the whole building. So once we've inspected the whole building, we sign off and say, this is compliant. Okay? We've checked every openable window and it's now compliant. Okay? Plus, obviously, we've got the insurances behind us. So you need to have a look at all these sort of things and then weigh up, should I get this done myself and take that risk, or should I get someone like Solutions Engineering that tick all the boxes to do it?
Thank you so much for your time, Pete. It was great having you on Strata Snapshots. And thank you. And look at the end of this video for information on how to contact Pete and Solutions and Engineering. Thank you.